Usually, I have to say something funny before we get applause. Thanks for that, but welcome to the September 24th Valley View School Board meeting. Students, parents, and distinguished guests, we'd ask you to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Zach, if you would please lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board affirmation statement. Member Perro, looks like she's ready to do it.
Our mission is to empower all learners to be college and career ready and to develop, grow, and achieve as productive citizens.
Thank you. Dr. Mitchum, the agenda, if you would.
Yes, Mr. Quigley, I'd like to ask that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Consent agenda items. Dr. Mitchum.
Yes, I'd like to ask that the board approve consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.8. 5.1 board meeting minutes, 9/17/18. 5.2 resolution number 1906, semi-annual review of executive session minutes to determine need for continued confidential treatment and authorization for destruction of executive session tapes more than 18 months old. 5.3 administrator and teacher salary and benefits report. 5.4 gifts for J.R. Tibbet Elementary School and nutrition services. 5.5 student activity contract request approval, Jonas Salk Elementary with Interstate Studio Photographers. 5.6 student activity contract request approval, Pioneer Elementary with Scholastic Book Fair. 5.7 student activity contract request approval, John J. Lukanczyk with Affy Tapple. And 5.8 report on shared services or outsourcing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, a roll call vote would be in order.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Gilbo?
No.
Member Perro?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Board liaison reports. From my left. Secretary Sikora.
Problem. On September 18th, I went to a Behavior Intervention Committee meeting. It was working to provide a tiered system of supports and responses for students with a range of social emotional challenges. Currently, the committee has created a behavior support plan template for students in Tier 2 and 3. The next time that we will meet, we'll refine our system of support and responses at the universal level. This will empower teachers with the tools and systems to support and respond to individual students who struggle with lagging skills. We hope to finalize a rollout plan at the December meeting and share district-wide.
Anybody else from the left? Anybody from the right? Hearing none, seeing none. I do have a legislative report. We have a distinguished guest tonight, Senator Pat McGuire, who has been very instrumental in working on the Higher Education Committee for the state of Illinois. Senator, you want to come down to the podium and tell us about a couple of the bills that you have been working on and passed for student collegiate funding.
Thank you. Board members, superintendent, and students, parents, staff members, I'm glad to be here. I'm Pat McGuire, State Senator, 43rd District. Last year in the General Assembly, we did what you wanted us to do, and we worked in a bipartisan fashion to try and bring down the price of college in Illinois. So it was just about a year ago that a small number of rank-and-file legislators decided that we needed to address the problem of higher education in Illinois being both expensive and shaky, to be honest with you. You know, the budget impasse and other problems put some of our state universities on the ropes. So what we did is we heard from the bureaucracies, the Illinois Board of Higher Ed and the Illinois Community College Board, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. We heard from stakeholders such as the president of the Illinois Association of School Guidance Counselors, and then we asked all 12 public university campuses to speak to us. And as we listened to them, we realized that there are two groups of students that appear to have disappeared from Illinois public university campuses. One is a group that caused 3 public university presidents to tell us that their biggest competitor is not the University of Iowa, it's not Indiana University. The presidents of Northern Illinois University, Northeastern Illinois University, and Governor State told us our biggest competitor is nowhere. We didn't know what they meant. So the president of Governor State explained to us that last year, 1/3 of the students that Governor State admitted, they didn't enroll at Governor State, they didn't enroll at Moraine Valley, they didn't enroll at St. Xavier, they didn't go anywhere, probably because they couldn't afford it, and that the state's financial aid program ran out of money before they were able to actually enroll in the fall. So I'm going to describe a bill that we passed in which the governor signed into law to help that group. And then the other group, of course, is students perhaps of better means, perhaps with higher ACT scores, who are leaving the state. And, you know, last year was a record, unfortunately, record exodus of Illinois high school graduates going to schools, not just in the Midwest, but across the country. The University of Illinois told us who their top 10 competitors are, and for years those competitors have been Big Ten schools. Now it's Big Ten schools and SEC schools. Now Alabama, Florida, Mississippi are among the U of I's biggest competitors. So again, we passed 4 bills. I want to talk to you for a moment about the 2 regarding financial aid. So Illinois' need-based financial aid program is called MAP, Monetary Award Program. It's one of the best in the country. It really is the envy of other states. And the appropriation this year is $401 million. But even at that, only about half of the students who apply for MAP and qualify for it get it because we run out of money. So we want to provide some certainty to students, to their families, and to institutions. So we passed a bill called 4-year MAP. So if you get MAP your freshman year of college, you get priority to get it sophomore, junior, and senior year. Again, so an entering student knows that if his or her family income is such that the student qualifies for this state financial aid program, it'll be there all 4 years that he or she is in school. And then for the other group, to address students from perhaps higher incomes, we created a statewide merit aid program called AIM High. And this is the only legislation we passed that spends new money. So the state is setting up a $25 million fund, and it's to incentivize our 9 public universities, frankly, to spend more of their money, more institutional aid, money that they raise from private donors. So this is the base year, and beginning next year, for every dollar any of the 9 public universities increases its aid by, they get $1 from this state fund, up to a max of $25 million. So this $25 million is divvied up based on full-time enrollment at our 9 public universities. The University of Illinois is getting almost $6 million of that 25. I was up at Chicago State the other day and met the new president, and Chicago State share will be $440,000. And I said, will you able to match that? So you can draw down from the state fund. And she said, we'll do whatever we need to do. We'll have chicken dinners. We'll sell snow cones on the street. But we need to be able to draw down that state money to provide more financial aid. And in the AIM High program, a student is eligible if his or her family income doesn't exceed 6 times the federal poverty level. So what that would mean is a student from a family of 4 would be eligible for this new financial aid program if his or her family income was no greater than $150,000. So this is designed to help those families that make too much money to get state or federal financial aid like a MAP grant or a Pell Grant, but still they don't have $30,000 sitting around to send their son or daughter to college. So these both become effective next year, and I wanted to make you aware of these. This morning I met with guidance counselors at Downers Grove North and South, and if you would ever want me to speak to your guidance departments about these bills, I'd be happy to do that. And I have a handout that briefly describes the bills, and then the last page of the handout is information from ISAC, the Illinois Student Assistance Commission's website, about how the 4-year MAP will be administered. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Senator. Doing what I do for a living, I have had great pleasure working with Senator McGuire many times on many issues. He is a true advocate for education at all levels. And when he talked about going to these universities, he's been to every one of these universities at least once, if not twice, if not 3 times, to conduct these hearings and talk to the people that run these universities and get a feel for what's been going on. And this has been, what, a 3-year program, process, Pat? 3 or 4 years of just doing this. So I want to thank you for, offering to come and do this, but also just personally thank you for what you do for not just our district, but the entire state. So thank you.
Thank you.
He is the definition of a humble public servant, by the way. And he used to be a teacher, correct, sir? There you go. Moving down the agenda, if there's no more liaison reports, student recognition and staff recognition. Pillars of Valley View. Oh, Bolingbrook High School, who's up first? Okay.
Hello, I'm Chris Ruddy. I'm the Assistant Principal of Curriculum and Instruction at Bolingbrook High School. And tonight, I would like to recognize Jean Herkenbach as a pillar of the Valley View School District. Jean has worked for the school district for the past 9 years in several different capacities. She worked for the Phoenix program, she's worked in the business office and bookstore, and for the past 3 years, she's been my administrative assistant. The first thing that comes to my mind is Jean's ability to put students and families first with a smile on her face. No matter how busy the day has been, how early she started her day, or how many unexpected issues she has solved, Jean is always a constant presence in the front office who is ready to greet everyone with warmth and professionalism. There are many things that Jean does that she does behind the scenes that would normally not get recognized. One of those, when you walked in, there's a calendar at each of your desks, and Jean was responsible for putting that together. And if you happen to sit at a chair that did not have one, you can email Jean and let her know that you want one, and we'll send one over to you. She's also responsible for coordinating Bolingbrook High School's graduation, where we have over 5,000 people on campus that day. She coordinates back-to-school registration, and because of her hard work and countless hours that she devotes just to make sure that our students, staff, and families have an excellent experience. Bolingbrook High School is a better place because we have Jean as a dedicated employee. I could not be more proud to call her my friend, my coworker, and sometimes my best partner in crime, as she is awarded the Valley View School District Pillar this evening. Thank you, President Quigley, Dr. Mitchum, and members of the board and senior leadership for allowing us to make this recognition to Jean.
Next up, Humphrey, I believe.
Good evening, school board, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, and guests. I'm Dan Laverty, principal at Humphrey Middle School, and Humphrey's honored to share our pillar of Valley View is Veronica Nerone. Veronica's journey to where she is today is somewhat of a unique one. She came to us as a transfer from an elementary school in the district as a PE teacher, and we assigned her as a language arts teacher. Over the past 4 years at Humphrey, Veronica has continued to do what she can to become a better educator. She works diligently with her team, with our instructional coaches, Rachel Sikora and Bonnie Hughes, to improve her lessons and her craft as an educator. Because of her diligent work and high expectations she has for our students, she has seen results. One example was this year, her students on the state park exam. She had 100% all of her students either maintained or moved to the next level. She was the only language arts teacher in the district to get these results. Veronica, because of your commitment to your students and your profession, we are honored to name you the pillar of Valley View School District representing Humphrey. Thank you for all you do.
Are you sure? I think it's working. I think we're good. All right. Good evening. Thank you, President Quigley, board members, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, and Valley View community. I'm Tiffany Russell, assistant principal, alongside Jessica McCaslin, principal of Woodview Elementary School. Woodview Elementary School is proud to honor Denise Trombetta as our pillar of Valley View. Ms. Trombetta began at Woodview serving as a parent, supporting PTA as a parent volunteer and president for over 10 years. She is the proud mother of 2 successful daughters, Dana and Cassie, who both attended Woodview. Ms. Trombetta continued as a parent, running 2 successful businesses while supporting Woodview's PTA and being a mom to her daughters. She later expanded her love for Valley View School District by becoming a guest secretary throughout the district. She continued on to work at Humphrey Middle School and currently works at Woodview. Ms. Trombetta has shared many times that it was always her dream to work at Woodview after her daughters attended there.
During her past 6 years at Woodview, Ms. Trombetta has made a great impact on Woodview's community. On a daily basis, Ms. Trombetta serves as Woodview's special education secretary. She connects with parents and families, schedules meetings, and assists the special education team in processing of documents and paperwork.
Ms. Trombetta also plays a valuable role at Woodview, connecting with students, supporting the daily announcements, and engaging in the community, working to make Woodview the best place it can be. She values and promotes climate in a variety of capacities with staff, students, and families. As a member of Woodview's PTA, Ms. Trombetta is continuously working to build partnerships for fundraising and to promote and support extracurricular family events.
Ms. Trombetta demonstrates flexibility, understanding, and a true care of Woodview. She consistently works to improve systems, organization, and access to materials for our staff and students. As recently as this summer, Ms. Trombetta reorganized and created a system for making supplies and co-curricular materials more accessible to the staff, which is a true benefit to our students.
While supporting Woodview through the role of Special Education Secretary, Ms. Trombetta also supports the registrar's role within the summer months, while also continuing her own duties. There were times this past summer that Ms. Trombetta was supporting the office, independently ensuring that it is a welcoming place to visit any time of the year. From monitoring student intakes, transfers, independently ensuring that it is a welcoming place, answering community questions and phone calls, greeting teachers, and supporting families through the registration process, Ms. Trombetta is always willing to go above and beyond to support the Woodview community.
Finally, Ms. Trombetta's dedication, passion, and care for our students, staff, and community at Woodview is greatly appreciated. We are so proud to present the pillar to Ms. Denise Trombetta. We are glad her dream of working at Woodview became a reality, and we're so happy that she calls Woodview home.
Audience participate. Oh, wait a minute. We got all kind of stuff. I'm jumping the gun here. Romeoville High School AP, Mr. Kinder, if you would please.
Good evening, President Quigley, members of the board, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, members of the audience and community. Before we recognize our AP scholars here for Romeoville High School, I definitely just want to thank the board and senior leadership for recognizing those students and all the work that both them and their families and their teachers put in to get them here this evening. Also, before that, I definitely have to thank Senator McGuire for being an advocate for not only Valley View School District, but also Romeoville High School personally. He's been to our last 5 graduations and spent time and spoke to our graduating class, which has a huge impact on our graduates and their families. So thank you, Senator McGuire, for being here tonight and being an advocate. Thank you. And I guess this can be an on-the-spot invitation to return for this year too as well, which I'm sure you'll be. Okay, great. Thanks, Pat. Also, as you see in the audience, board members and some members of the community, if you'll see or kind of pan up maybe with the camera, we have a huge row of orange shirts that are back there. That is our newly formed AP Student Council, which really promotes a strong AP kind of community at Romeoville High School that's sponsored and volunteered by a bunch of our teachers, AP teachers at school, but most of them are AP council members and also just friends of some of our AP scholars here to celebrate. So thank you, Spartans, for being here to celebrate. All right, and to the reason why we're here, our AP Scholars. Romeoville High School is pleased that they had 65 AP Scholars, the most in school history, raising our percentage of AP Scholars overall immensely over the past years. And we have 15 of those scholars that are still enrolled with us as seniors or juniors of this year. And tonight we have 7 of those here. The first 5 that I'm going to introduce are AP Scholars recognized by the College Board, meaning they received scores of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams during the last 1 or 2 school years. The first of which is Peyton Camden. AP Council, if you could hold your applause until they're all done. All right. You guys can still stand. You guys look marvelous. Still stand with all the signs. It's good. Next is Michael Gabarczyk. Next is Hannah Ramos. AP Scholar Peyton Roland. And AP Scholar Justin Volmuth. And the next 2 students that we're going to recognize are students that were recognized by the College Board with their highest local honor, which is an AP Scholar with Distinction, is granted to students who receive an average of a score of at least a 3.5 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more exams. And we have 2 of those. We have Manuel Bonita and Corinne Doty. All right. Thank you, Board, and thank you, AP Council.
Next up, and for those of you who don't understand the value of the AP, having had a son who was a 3 out of 4 or 3 out of whatever classes he took, saves you a lot of money when your kid goes to college. I can tell you that right now because I got a son who's a sophomore, and he's basically tested out of an entire semester. So think about what that means to you.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Lewis, and I'm an assistant principal of Educational Supports, Technology, and Assessment at Bolingbrook High School. President Quigley, Dr. Mitchum, members of the board, as well as senior leadership, thank you for giving us the opportunity to recognize our wicked smart students. Last year, our AP program drastically increased. From 2017 to 2018, we grew from 475 to 1,040 students taking an AP exam. We grew from 852 to 1,700 exams taken. This is an attribute of our hardworking students, their parents, and all of our teachers in our building. This year, including some of our seniors who graduated and are now freshmen in college, we had 83 AP Scholars, 26 AP Scholars with honors, and 20 AP Scholars with distinction. It is my pleasure to introduce the students who are the 2018 BHS AP Scholars. First, Helena Ball. You can go shake their hands. Jacob Chow. Carly Curtis, Andrea Chart, Caden Elliott, Bruce Escalante, Guillermo Franco, Christopher Halem, Anthony Jordan, You're good. Wicked smart. Vanessa Colfer, Trevor Mormon, Isaac Montano. Did I say it wrong? Graciela Navas, Natalie O'Callahan, Naomi Pulapade, Daryl Posadas, sorry. Samantha Sapika. Now for our 2018 BHS AP Scholars with Honors. Maha Khan. Joshua Kurian. John Masick. Angel Lee. Catherine Nigella. Christian Tariquez. And finally, tonight I would like to present our 2018 AP Scholars with Distinction. Jasmine Sines. And Theodore Alexi Tam.
As they are leaving the room, because they have homework to go do, that's why they're wicked smart. We have audience participation. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address the board this evening? Seeing no one, we'll move down the agenda. Dr. Mitchum, action reports, student due process.
Yes, Mr. Quigley, I'd like to ask that the board approve due process cases A through C as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds, or 2 motions. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Member Perro?
Yes.
Member Gilbo?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
I'll be abstaining because I know one of the individuals. Thank you. Let's see. Ms. Kinder, action report 10.
Yes, sir. The action report 10.1, we are presenting 2 policies for approval this evening. This is 6.120, Education of Children with Disabilities, and 7.330, Student Use of Buildings, Equal Access. These policies were subject for review. There was no changes except for legal references made, so we're just presenting them for approval this evening.
So moved.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. A roll call vote would be in order.
Member Gilbo?
Yes.
Member Perro?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Secretary Sikora?
Yes.
Vice President Zach?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Grisafi, at this time, it would be, I need a motion to adjourn to a public hearing to discuss and vote on the proposed budget for 2018 and 19. Temporarily adjourn to a public hearing.
So moved.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Mr. Grisafi, if you would, please. We are now in a public hearing.
Great. Tonight, the purpose of the public hearing tonight is to present the fiscal year 2018-19 budget in its final form. First, I'd like to report that the public hearing notice was published on August 16th in both the Romeoville and Bolingbrook editions of the Bugle newspaper as required by law. The presentation was emailed in the packet, so hopefully you can follow along. And we've got it up there. Perfect. Overall budget, $292,746,000, an increase of 2.3% over the prior year's actuals. This does not include the $81.8 million of on-behalf payment that we're required to book. We don't receive that money. We don't pay out that money. It is just a book entry only. And if you were to add that, you can see that our budget would be close to $400 million. And so therefore, I choose to just disregard it, but I do make note of it there. Operating funds, this would be all funds associated with running the district on a day-to-day basis, excluding debt service. That's $249 million, an increase of $8.67 million, or 3.6 over last year's budget. Changes for 2018-19, our corporate personal property replacement tax is projected to decrease $612,000 or 7%. I won't read those items listed there, but those are the reasons that the Department of Revenue has indicated the reason for the decline. I've got a slide in here a little bit further that will indicate or show you the history of the decline, or I shouldn't say only decline because we have had increases of CPPRT. I think the takeaway there will be it's really hard to predict what the district will receive year to year to year. I'm happy to report that evidence-based funding is projected to increase $1.5 million due to the new tier funding formula. Last year we were the recipient of $1.8 million. That 1.8 becomes part of the new base, and then any new dollars that the legislature allocates to EBF, or evidence-based funding, becomes new dollars, which again convert to your base the following year. We are considered a Tier 2 district at 66% of adequacy, just over the 65% that would have put us in Tier 1. And obviously the idea is to move districts toward that 100% of adequacy, what they deem appropriate funding to educate a student. On the expenditure side, increase in salary costs of 3.22% per our tentative labor agreements. Benefits are budgeted for 3.2% in claims and fixed costs over last year's actuals. Our outside placement tuition budget has increased $250,000. Our debt service payment is scheduled to increase $341,000 this year. We're also incorporated $80,000 to replace wrestling and cheer mats, a bit of which will be coming to you at a future meeting. And even though our initiative, our one-to-one technology initiative continues, the lease costs are $530,000 less this year than they have been due to an expiring lease amount greater than the new lease amount. Budget revision since we put the budget on display back in August. We've incorporated all the federal grants, namely Title I, II, III, and early childhood, adding an additional $5.1 million in both revenue and expenses. For all intents and purposes, that's a cost-neutral add. We've added one teaching position, one secretary, one one-to-one aide, a custodial helper, as well as 2 teaching overloads. Salary and benefit amounts have been incorporated pending the ratification with the AFT, who represents the teachers, nurses, support staff, paraprofessionals, and security, and the reaching of a tentative agreement with AFSCME, who represents our bus drivers and monitors. Source of revenue, familiar slide from previous presentations, all in at the bottom. Local dollars, primarily property taxes and user fees. 231 million of the 307 that we take in, or 75% supported by local. Again, my comment there is that while people complain about property taxes, it's nice to know that the property taxes stay within the school district. They don't go to Springfield, they don't go to the federal government, they stay within the community. State funding is just 58.8 million, or 19%, if we back out that on-behalf payment I spoke about earlier. And federal dollars are just under 17 million, or 6%. And so you can see there we've got 307 million of revenue to support our operation. Just kind of a historical where we've been for state funding. You can see we've been as low as 19% last year. Or I'm sorry, for the current year, we've been as high as 22%. And so even though we've gotten that new tier funding, I think the local property taxes are making up the bulk of our funding. 5-year average, 73%, state at just under 21, and the Fed doesn't really fluctuate much more between 6 and 7. I talked about the corporate personal property replacement tax. You can see we've had as much as $10.4 million back in 2017. This year we're estimated to be at 8.1. We've been as low as 7.7 back in 2010. This makes it rather difficult to budget because a swing from 7.7 to 10.4, it's almost $3 million. It doesn't happen in 1 year, but you can see how it kind of ping-pongs up and down. It's a pretty large revenue source for our district, as opposed to most districts around the state. And so again, any sort of adjustments, good or bad, do cause us to make sure we're on top of that revenue source. Next slide is the detail of the Objects, salary, benefits, purchase services, supplies, capital outlay, and other. Again, $292 million budgeted over last year's $286 million of actual, or a 2.3% increase. That would be all funds, including debt service. On the education fund, we're $206 million, or 5.6% greater than the $195 actual that was spent last year. You can see capital outlay has a rather large increase. Typically, those are budget requests that maybe don't get spent. You can see we only spent $179,000 last year in capital outlay out of the education fund. This budget is worst-case scenario, as I've mentioned to you many years, every year pretty much in the past. We don't anticipate this budget will spend every dollar that's budgeted there. We do try to honor all the requests. It's with some input from principals and associated staff as we conduct staffings in February. Administration provides a lot of input. Joanne Borg, our Director of Business Services, solicits a lot of input from the buildings. And again, there's a lot of effort that goes into assembling a budget this large, as you might imagine. The next slide really gives you the long and short of everything that you've seen here. You've got revenues across the top there in line 1, across all the major funds that comprise our budget: the education fund, the operations and maintenance fund, transportation, IMRF and FICA, that's Social Security, the tort fund, which pays for our insurances on things like unemployment and workers' compensation, and our working cash fund. All total, we start the year with just $70.8 million of reserves, if you will, balance. We had revenues of $245.9 million, expenses of $249.9 million of expenses, leaving us $3.9 million short of a balanced budget without having to dip into our reserves. This slide, again, is indicative of how much money we have at the end of the fiscal year, estimated to have at the end of the fiscal year. 98 days of operating reserves, so just a bit over what we like to say is our minimum threshold of 90 days in order to allow us to not have to worry about any short-term borrowing needs as we move forward. We have been anywhere between 89 and 102 days over the last 5 years, which to me is a good indication that our expenses and our revenues have generally equaled throughout the years, I should say. And again, this is a good executive summary for anybody who wants to know, what do we look like on an annual basis, money in, money out. And the last slide I have is just a 5-year fund balance history. Beginning back in 2014, we were at 61 million, down to 64, 63, 62, and now 70 unaudited. You can see that we were owed categorical funds from the state due to the backlog of bills. It was 4.2 back in 16, 5.5 in 17. They've cleared all but the 2.5 that they owed us for 2018. We literally got an email today saying that those grants have been released for payment, which is great to hear. So at least we'll be caught up with what the state owes us in terms of state funding.
So, we are in hearing. Are there any questions of the board members to Mr. Guzzafi? Are there any questions from the public who would like to address the board on the budget? Seeing none, hearing none, a motion to close the hearing would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. We are back in general session. That being said, a motion to approve the budget as presented would be in order.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Member Campbell, second by Member Pero. Are there any questions? Hearing none, seeing none, a roll call vote would be in order. This is the number one thing that we do.
Member Pero,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. I would remind my fellow members, we have to sign the document that we present to the state of Illinois before you leave tonight, so make sure that gets signed. Otherwise, Gary will have to chase you down, and he's not that fast. Thank you for that. Resolution adopting the budget has been appropriated and done. Ms. Nash, action report, number 12.
Thank you, President Quigley. Action Report 12.1 is our consolidated action report for certified and classified personnel. This evening, we're seeking your approval on 11 separate items for certified personnel and 20 separate items for classified personnel.
Motion?
So move. Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Peril,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Ms. Nash?
Action Report 12.2 is we're seeking your approval for the job description that was presented at the September 17th board meeting for the EC Parent Community Outreach Liaison. This is a grant-funded position as part of the Preschool for All grant, and we, again, are recommending and requesting your approval on this job description.
Motion?
So move.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Gilbo,
No.
Member Peril,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes.
Action Report 12.3 is a resolution authorizing the dismissal of educational support personnel employees for reasons other than reduction in force. We're requesting your approval and adoption of the resolution.
Motion?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Gilbo,
Yes.
Member Peril,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Secretary Sikora,
Yes.
Vice President Zach,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Next, where we at? Dr. Mitchum, Superintendent Information Report.
I'll be taking this one. This is Information Report 13.1. It's a job description for a District English Learner Assessment Coordinator. This is for your review this evening, and we plan to seek approval of this job description at the October 9th board meeting.
Does anybody have any questions while we're here this evening? If you have questions, kindly contact Member Nash or ask away.
I just have a comment. I would personally rather like to see more educators in the classroom being hired than administrators. So therefore, my vote's usually probably not going to be a yes on job descriptions that are hiring administrators before more in the classroom to get classroom sizes smaller. Thank you.
If I may clarify, this is not an administrative position. This is a coordinator position, so it is a certified educator. The position title had previously been EL teacher, but because of the duties primarily being assessment, this job change is being made, the title change is being made so that it more accurately fits the description. We have more than 61 languages spoken in our district, and we have more than 5,000 students who are speaker of at least one other language besides English. And so in alignment with school code, and because we do what's best for our children, we do assess them to determine their level of English proficiency so that we can provide them with appropriate support. So as you can imagine, that is a full-time job in the sense that when kids come to us and enroll in our district, or as placements are made, we do need an individual who's trained and highly qualified to administer these different assessments. And it's critical to us because it allows us to not only meet the requirements set forth by the state, but it also allows us to service our students appropriately. So this is a critical position, and I do appreciate your comments, Member Gilbo.
We'll see this at the next board meeting, I assume, correct? Thank you. Moving down the agenda, let's see, Legal Services Report.
I have no report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Association reports, AFT. Valley View Council report. Valley View Office Personnel Council report. Old business before the board this evening. Any new business before the board this evening? Any questions from the public on actions we have taken this evening? Hearing none, seeing none. Moving down the agenda. Any announcements by the board from my left? From my right? Any announcements by the administration? Doc, you have your button on.
No announcements.
Oh, Turn your button off. No, I can't see the red light. Thank you. Any announcements by the public? Seeing none or hearing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Or you guys, we could sit here all night. I don't care.
So moved. Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Have a safe and great evening. And hey, how about those Bears?